Thank you for joining us today. Please keep in mind that this video presentation will discuss sensitive topics that viewers may find triggering. Please exercise caution while tuning into this video. In this presentation, we will be discussing the AmIOK program in its entirety and our student involvement within the TCNJ campus community. An overview of the AmIOK program will be discussed first. The AmIOK program is run by Dr. Dara, Whalen, who is the program director and principal investigator for the grant, followed by Liza Woods, the assistant director and training manager, Katie Drake, the program assistant, and lastly myself, Amelia Zaleski, as the outreach assistant. I'm now going to be turning the presentation over to Dr. Whalen.
Hello, my name is Dr. Dara Whalen, and I'm an assistant professor at the College of New Jersey in the Department of Nursing. My area of interest and the place where I do my research and practice is in sexual violence and trauma. What we know about violence is that it's a worldwide phenomena. It's complex and it's considered in most cases an inevitable part of the human condition. Violence itself has significant impact on physical, spiritual, and psychological health of individuals, communities, and society in general. And sexual violence is one type of violence, and that's what our program is focused on. Sexual assault is not sex to the survivor, it's an act of violence, and it's all about power over another person and loss of control for that person. One of the things about sexual violence that is unique is that approximately 65 to 90% of people who experience sexual violence don't report the event. We don't see the same numbers when someone's been a victim of a robbery or other types of violence. On college campuses, it's typical that 90% of students who experience sexual violence do not report the event. And the reasons why they don't report are very complex, and we don't actually know the full breadth and depth of why students do not report. But we have some understanding because of the process itself. A concern that students have, and that needs to be addressed, is the question, am I okay? Prior to being able to work through the process of reporting or not reporting, or how to report, requires that they're in a state and a frame of mind that they're able to think through the process. And without some help and without support and without a calming place to be, it's difficult to know if that person is okay. So the program we developed was to help students be able to come to the point where they're saying, I'm okay for the moment, and let us help them to get through the process of what to do next. The long-term effects of trauma are concerning. We see things like PTSD, depression, substance abuse, academic performance issues, physical manifestations, and complications related to chronic stress states. The good news is that outcomes can improve if the person receives proper care and follow-up following the trauma. The College of New Jersey has a VOCA-funded grant called the Anti-Violence Initiative. They continue to do work on campus, and we collaborate with them as much as we possibly can. What we noticed in 2018 during a campus climate survey was there were some gaps in services to students and victims on campus. And we applied for the New Jersey VOCA grant in a way that would help us to support a program structure to fill in those gaps. The gaps that were identified were fragmented delivery of care, issues of transportation, process that requires retelling of the events, and confusing options for reporting or not reporting. Students had difficulty going through the path to decide what they wanted to do next. And even with care, students could struggle to maintain their academic program and personal connections. So our grant was funded for the first year for development. We started seeing clients, getting them into counseling, and doing all we could to support them through their struggle. In year 2, we are expanding direct services to more students at the TCNJ community and work on further expansion into the community, surrounding communities. So in years 2 and 3, we're expanding the delivery of our direct services to students in other colleges, universities, and technical schools in the Mercer County area within 30 minutes to the TCNJ campus. This gives us the opportunity to serve more students in the region, especially those campuses that are not eligible for the VOCA funding. As this program moves forward, our team members are going to talk a little bit about the program itself and how we deliver our services and all of the things that we'd like to accomplish over the next couple of years.
Thank you, Dr. Whalen. It's important to note that while we focus heavily on rape and sexual assault, that any crime, reported or not, is eligible for our services. This includes harassment, stalking, physical assault, cyberbullying, and so on and so forth, as all of these are traumatic crimes and all may require a critical follow-up care. Our team knows the long-term implications that a survivor of trauma can have if not receiving the appropriate medical and emotional care following a traumatic event or crime. Our goal is to bring choice back to survivors who had their choice stripped from them and create an opportunity for empowerment. AmIOK hopes to provide an inclusive environment that delivers care towards populations that often experience higher incident rates of violence and trauma and who often don't have access to equitable resources. This includes the LGBTQIA populations and persons of color. This next section will discuss how our campus community members can access our services. As mentioned before, we provide support for a crime that has occurred within any time period of an individual's life. Here is a brief video clip from our program assistant, Katie Drake, detailing how to access our services.
The AmIOK hotline operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We think that this is really important because we want students to be able to access the care that they need when they need it. It is important to note, however, that our hotline does not replace 911 as an emergency service. If you're experiencing a medical emergency, dial 911 or go to your local emergency room. When you call our hotline, one of the operators will help you to determine what type of care is best for you, if you need an appointment more urgently or if you want to schedule something at your convenience. Please see the chart for more details, and I hope this helps.
What you're viewing now is an example of our hotline call workflow to help differentiate between emergency calls versus urgent calls and non-emergent calls. In our final section, we will be discussing the student involvement that takes place within the program. Here, our student volunteer Stephanie West discusses the many ways at TCNJ that students can volunteer with our program.
The amount of volunteering that you do with us is completely up to you, as we have many different opportunities to volunteer within the program. For example, you can work as a part of our social media team. You could also be a companion, which may require a little bit more hours, or you can also sit on the student advisory.
As Stephanie mentioned in her video, students can aid in social media content as a socially distanced way of staying involved. Here are some examples of student-made posts that have been shared on our Instagram page. This post discussed healthy relationships, National Women's Equality Day, an advertisement for getting involved, trafficking, breathing techniques, understanding secondary trauma, and a mental health checklist. Students can also intern in our department. This year, our intern is Yoseline. She is a senior public health major and aids in expanding outreach within the community, mainly through social media. Yoseline also assists in translating some of our posts into Spanish, as seen here, as well as here. Yoseline also created a brochure for our department detailing all the information about our program, why it exists, who do we serve, and some commonly asked questions that have been answered as well. That wraps up today's presentation on the AmIOK program. Please contact our office if you're interested in hearing more about our program or having us speak with your class or organization. Thank you for tuning in today, and we hope you were able to take away vital information.